2024 July 7th. Daily Bread Passage. John chapter 18 verse 12 to 27. Key verse. Verse. Title: Jesus' trials and Peter's denials. Then the detachment of soldiers with its commander and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus. They bound him and brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people. Simon Peter and another disciple were following Jesus. Because this disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard. But Peter had to wait outside at the door. The other disciple, who was known to the high priest, came back, spoke to the servant girl on duty there and brought Peter in. "You aren't one of this man's disciples too, are you?" she asked Peter. He replied, "I am not." It was cold, and the servants and officials stood around a fire they had made to keep warm. Peter also was standing with them, warming himself. Meanwhile, the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. "I have spoken openly to the world," Jesus replied. "I always taught in synagogues or at the temple, where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said." When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby slapped him in the face. "Is this the way you answer the high priest?" he demanded. "If I said something wrong," Jesus replied, "testify as to what is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. Meanwhile, Simon Peter was still standing there warming himself. So they asked him, "You aren't one of his disciples too, are you?" He denied it, saying, "I am not." One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him, "Didn't I see you with him in the garden?" Again Peter denied it, and at that moment a rooster began to crow. The soldiers bound Jesus and took him to Annas, a former high priest and the father-in-law to the high priest Caiaphas. Annas questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching to find a basis to charge him, not to seek the truth. When an official hit Jesus in the face, Jesus calmly demanded why he struck him. Jesus spoke the truth. Jesus was faithful even in the dark, lonely, and illegal trial at night. Jesus did not fail to be faithful witness to them. We are to trust Jesus, who is faithful and never fails when we bear witness in the unbelieving world. Although Peter loved Jesus, he disowned Jesus 3 times. Jesus had predicted his suffering, death, and resurrection many times, but Peter had not accepted Jesus' words because of his misunderstanding. When Peter failed to understand God's way of the cross, he insisted on his own way and became a prey of the devil. This is a temptation for us all. When Peter failed to know his own weakness, he trusted in himself, not in Jesus. When we know that we are weak, then we are strong, for it is then that we trust in God and His power. Prayer. Lord, I am weak and vulnerable. Help me to depend on you and follow in your way. One word. Trust in God and pray.